Alright, what is going on, guys? Crimson here. As you know, I am Crimson, or as Crimson on Twitter. I am the owner of Azami, who is up in the top left. Shout out to Azami. Oh, yep, right up in top left. Oh no, top right. Right up in the top right, my bad. So recently, Oniforce has updated their website to include all of the lore so far, which I don't know what's going on with the other website that's supposed to be happening. I don't know if they just decided to put it all on the main website or not. And as a person who has been trying to get invested in the lore and try to, wrap my head around what's going on, I'm going to be reacting to what's on the site. And I kind of have skimmed through it already, and I noticed a lot of stuff is different from what's been said because lore has been hinted about, said in Discord, and it's like most things in like different mangas. It's like you're told one thing in like a guidebook, and then the next guidebook will say something different. So there's just a whole lot of stuff that's kind of conflicting, and different things look like has changed from what I've been told and what's been like said. So I'm gonna go through that, and I don't know if a lot of people have taken the time to try to understand the lore or read it at all. So I'm going to read everything that's on the website, and as I go through, I'll read it all, and then I'll react and tell you guys what I think and what might be true and what might change and whatnot. Just share my raw opinion. And then at the very end, I'll kind of go through my old notes that I had written down about pieces of the lore, and so we're going to do all that together and with Azami. So shout out to everyone that's going to be participating in this. All right. So, Onifor's origin. The birthplace of the Enclave began with the one source, a fountain of infinite potential. First to emerge was the Emperor's Eye, which birthed seven beings which would be known as the Genesis Yokai. Contained within their mechanical shells and under the guidance of the Emperor, the seven yokai began to freely harvest essence from the one source. They used this essence to mold and shape and bring into existence technologies, architecture that formed the Ethereal Enclave, an endless mega city that presently home to millions of other life forms. Okay, which is kind of interesting because we don't know anything really about the other life forms. We know about the yokai, the bakemono, and the oni, and the kami, but there's been really no hint towards like other animals or like other beings like humans or other like demons and whatnot. So it's kind of interesting to see where that will go. Each time the seven Genesis yokai wield the essence of the one source, their mastery over it grew, and as their mastery and knowledge over the one source deepened, their bodies underwent significant changes. The seven had reached ascension. From lowly yokai, they transformed into the powerful bakemono, and then the golden-eyed oni, and eventually they reached their current final state, the all-powerful kami. Which is kind of interesting. I think this is also implementing what they're going to do with the gamified version of this, where you become your oni and like you level up and you grow as like a character. So I don't know how it's going to affect other people that are already bakemono or onis, but Azami is already a yokai, so I wonder if there's gonna be potentially like some people who are gonna be able to like evolve like their yokai, so that might even raise the floor in a sense, because yokai would be the floor as it's the cheapest and most common. So I wonder if that would increase like the demand for yokai because you have a chance to evolve with like greater potential, because like when you're a bakemono and an oni, your potential is already kind of like seen and reached, and like you're starting to get to where you are as a person, like your max potential. But as a yokai, you're still growing and still learning, just like with the Genesis yokai and the kami, who evolved from just being like a low blood, like a low tier person, and became something great, like, which is a lot of implications and really deep, and I do kind of like that. So let's just hope Azami's the first one to do that. They did kind of talk about how the one source, I don't know if this will be also featured, but I do have written out the one source is kind of just like imagination and like creative power. So like the ability to create. If someone's able to use this one source, you can just create whatever you want pretty much. Just like how the Emperor was able to create, various different like characters like the yokai and stuff, which is also interesting because I don't know who was created first, because it's also stated that later down there that some other people were created by the Emperor, so I want to know who was created first, to be honest. Okay, the Emperor, pleased with his first subjects, rewarded each with a specific domain within the Ethereal Enclave for them to rule over, and the city continued to grow. In the beginning, the Enclave was an empty, massive landscape of impressive architecture, but completely void of life. The Kami went back to the One Source, using their complete mastery over it. They harvested even more essence and created and molded the yokai to populate the city. So what it sounds like to me is before it was kind of hinted at that Moira, which if you guys pay attention in Discord, is hinted as to be a manifestation, or I like to say like is the One Source, and Moira created all the Oni. And there was also some place that said that humans were transformed into Oni after the Emperor's death, which caused the shift, and the shift is like kind of like ground zero where everything went wrong. But so it looks like the Kami created the yokai for the universe. The Kami guided them and taught them the secrets of the One Source. Many embraced their teachings and became legendary architects that spurred the golden age of the Ethereal Enclave. These individuals also eventually reached various stages of ascension. As centuries passed, the Enclave would be filled with yokai, bakemono, and oni, and all worked tirelessly building and upgrading the technology within this grand city. So also, it is also kind of hinted, I think, on the lore on opensea. It kind of made it seem like, you were born into these classes of yokai, bakemono, and oni. So like I said before, it is kind of interesting that you're able to kind of grow into like your different forms and like grow into like these different stages of like demon. During all these time, housed in the center of the Ethereal Enclave began to shed his essence. He proceeded to create three other beings. Omnipotent Moria, which acted as the voice within, Death, who held the key to unlock the One Source, and Mikasa, who was tasked to be the guardian of the city. Now, Death's, I never really known what Death's purpose was before this was released, but it's kind of interesting that he's like the key to unlock the One Source. I don't know if this is like the key to restore everything, or like the key just Death can create stuff himself, or like he's like the main character. You know how like sometimes the main character is the one that's supposed to help fix everything. And I don't know if I mentioned this in my little headcanon, but I was thinking that after the shift, which they were all kind of talking about, Death, Moria, and Mikasa, they were kind of talking about the shift and how it was like changing and corrupting the One Source. And if Moria is like a manifestation of the One Source, and is the One Source, is Moria corrupted in some way, and is Death and like the other Oni supposed to work together to like help fix the corruption and restore everything back to normal? About myself. Okay. Now on to the Enclave. Once the city has reached homeostasis and eternal life could be sustained, the residents of the Enclave began to shed their protective suits. These Nano Suits were then stored in the vault beneath the city. Okay, so this is also interesting because there's also been hints that from Strawberry with my talks with him, and when he's been talking about the suits, how it's kind of like the yokai and oni and bakemono's original skin. Everyone's been in a suit, which I guess makes sense because the Kami would have shaped these beings after themselves because they're already suits themselves. But it's also kind of interesting because it's not really known, at least just from just reading, if the original yokai were even like in the forms we see them as now, like Azami is right now. So that's where we're kind of going to the suits, and the importance of the suits is that the suits were like the originality of yourself. So I don't know what that's really going to entail, but that is kind of interesting that they did bring this up. The city itself never ceased to stop growing. The walls that surrounded it continuously moved outward as it expanded far beyond the naked eye. Great pyramids, spired pagoda, and technologically advanced skyscrapers dotted the skyline of the city. Bustling districts were interconnected with sprawling highways managed by invisible force fields called nano zones, which created microclimates, regulated disease and pollution, and formed protective barriers around the city to shield those that dwell within. Okay, so I know I keep like kind of spoiling stuff, but nanozones are also what kind of failed within the shift, and that's what's been killing everybody. So it's kind of ironic that the technology that was used to help manage and regulate everything was what ends up killing a lot of people within this shift, within the Ethereal Enclave. Eons passed, and the citizens of the Ethereal Enclave lived under protection of the Emperor and the advanced technology that helped run the city. With the passing time, the Oni began to forget. They gave little thought to what was happening around them. They forgot the Emperor existed. Complacency and existing became synonymous. Then, without warning, the Emperor died. No one knew what happened. I think someone killed him, or he killed himself because he was dying because of all his use of the one source. Maybe the one source actually probably taints people and actually kind of corrupts them and like kills them. So I think honestly the Emperor either was killed by someone or he purposely died and is trying to take over someone's body in order to become eternal again. Which is also weird because I think it's also stated that the Kami and like he was able to create like omnipotent beings, but he somehow dies. Like, how do you die and create these like god like creatures or beings, and you still die yourself? That's what I kind of found suspicious. Then, without warning, the Emperor died. No one knew what happened. With his death, the technology that once sustained their lives began to malfunction. A shift occurred within the One Source, affecting everyone and everything within the great metropolis. Everything that had been formed since the dawn of the One Source began to crumble. The nanozones started to malfunction, horribly killing all those that came into contact with them. Panic-stricken, the people began to migrate from their homes to districts away from the dangerous nanoparticulates. Neighborhoods quickly grew dark as new dangers rose one after another. Days passed and new forms of authority began to surface from the ensuing chaos. Clans formed to claim their districts. And speaking of clans, I also made my own type of clan. It's the Zyoko Clan, which resides in the Aka district, which is, which takes up, the colors red, blue, and yellow. Aka, Ao, and Kiro, I think it is. Red, yellow, and blue. And my clan also has its own little stuff, and I'm not going to go into that. But the once joyous sounds were now deafened by the roar of roaming squads, and the peace was ended. Now, with each passing second, the world that once sustained them grew increasingly more dangerous. So I also kind of find it interesting that chaos already ensued. Like, everyone, I'm assuming, lived in peace and harmony, and then once this shift happened, everything started just automatically going bad. So I wonder if because of the complacency that everyone had, like once this, like, protective bubble bursted, everyone just kind of went mad and started doing their own thing because they just were in a new environment and just couldn't handle the shift, literally. The Oni began to gather inside the Demon's Kiss. And if you guys didn't also know, Demon's Kiss is where a lot of people begin their roleplay. So if you ever want to roleplay as your character, go down to the Demon's Kiss. Rose, Ryder, and all those guys will gladly help you out with roleplaying. Their old haunt. The Oni began to gather inside the Demon's Kiss, their old haunt, where the lost and the remaining gathered for a stiff drink. It was their last reprieve from the Ethereal Enclave's lonely nights. The Oni gathered all 7,770 of them. Inside the ageless bar, they spent the evening sharing tales of loss and celebrated life in the company of each other. Throughout the night, the music played and brought forth by the Oni Kai on stage. While the Oni danced, they felt the shift quite differently. This is also their first mention on the Oni Kai, and all we know about the Oni Kai is really just like people who go like above and beyond and are like almost representations of what it means to be like a good person. I'm guessing, like the values are strength, style, and spirit, and the Oni Kai are like a representation of that. So I also kind of find interesting that the Oni Kai are also musicians. I know it's because it's a reference to, I think it's Kakazu, his name is. I definitely don't know your name. I'm sorry, man. But he's also the resident DJ of like the Ethereal Enclave. So I don't know if this is him doing it, and that's what they mean by the Oni Kai, or is this also Steven Aoki and all those guys? So I don't know. As they gathered, their spirit grew. They felt a renewed strength, and together they embodied style. Each one began hearing the calm voice of Moria calling to them to action. In that moment of solace, the Oni would begin to move as one. The voice led them to a room long forgotten beneath the Demon's Kiss. Within the room, as the words continued to echo in their minds, they stood before their matching frames. You, member of the Oni force, suit up and engage to protect yourself. Moria's voice woke them up from their complacency. Something about these mechanical suits seems familiar. it also felt like a fleeting memory. They began to suit up in preparation to the chaos that exploded across the Enclave. Okay, so this is also interesting because in Discord, the whole point of Moria is like, I'm guessing so people who reject and become fallen, I'm assuming they don't, like, once they see these suits, they're like, yo, I'm not about that, and leave. And the people that do just take their suits, because also you become a nameless when Moria takes your name. So I'm assuming that name taking is kind of what like brings you back to your original self, because that's like what they are trying to do, is help you like find yourself, help return to your original state. So I'm assuming this is where that happened, is a divide between the people that accepted the help of Moria and was ready to become their previous selves, or the people who said, no, I don't trust you, because they obviously had forgotten who they once were these people inside these suits. And so now there's that divide between the people who accepted who they are and the people who didn't. And here's like a little bit of art. So when all these like nano suits are like these nanobots start malfunctioning, you see like this dude literally gets boned, even through his mask. Like that's just how powerful it is. Like he literally just gets shredded, and he die. Oh gosh. He's like evaporating. It's like your Sims character. He's like fading into the Matrix. Yeah, so this is like probably like as soon as the shift happened, people just started going crazy. Also, who has this helmet? And it looks like this is a clan symbol right here. So it looks like a lot of people have like little clan symbols. I need my own clan symbol for Zyoko. I don't have one yet. But this helmet's kind of cool. I'd like to see some people with this helmet on. Or if this helmet was even supposed to be a thing. Maybe I'll figure that out for my iceberg. But never know. Okay, so what is the Ethereal Enclave? An endless mega city from essence of the one source. It is the place of technological advancement. From the rooftops, one can see great pyramids, spired pagoda, and technology-advanced skyscrapers, where vast swaths of nature have also taken hold. Bustling districts are interconnected with sprawling highways, managed by visible force fields, nanozones, which create microclimates and regulate disease and pollution, form protective barriers around the city from any foreign invader. This is also interesting because they did just say before that the Ethereal Enclave was endless, and now it's like Minecraft, there is a barrier. So now we know that the nanozones form a protective barrier, but since that is gone, what does that mean for the future? Like, who's going to come in and invade the Ethereal Enclave now? Because there's now a lot of possibilities. Now there's no longer that protection from outside invaders and outside corruption and pollution. There's no longer this perfectness. Now a lot of stuff can come and make its influence with inside the Enclave. So maybe there'll be some new beings, new people that come around and start recruiting different yokai's onis for their own malicious or good intent. The one source. I don't know why they repeated this, but this is why I say, what is the one source? And it is just a mysterious power source that found infinite potential, which I also have in my Moira notes right here. Like, tap into the one source, feel the creational energy, let it guide you. This is the one source where you can create something out of nothing. So this is also kind of expansive on, it's not just a fountain of infinite potential, it's a fountain of like infinite creation as well. And not only that, it is also what everyone has inside of them, the one source. So it really, anyone can tap into this potential like the original yokai can, which also should be on here too, that it is something that everyone has inside of them and can tap into, because it's not just the Emperor and Moria and possibly Death and the Kami can tap into. Really, anyone can tap into it. Now, how well people can tap into it may depend on if you're Oni, Yokai, or Bakemono, or so on, but everyone can tap into this in some way, shape, or form. There's the Emperor. We don't really know that much, but he's just a ruling creator of the Ethereal Enclave and the citizens residing within. His death triggered the chain of events which will lead to eventual collapse of the city, which is also interesting because I think if you guys watched K or K Project, it is like the Wiseman source, which also gave like the characters in that show their powers and created the kings, who were kind of like the Kami in a sense, who like could give the power to other people to manifest like their colors, and they're also divided by colors too. And this Wiseman source was also managed by the Gold King, who basically kept this power in check. So it seems like that's what he did as well, like the Gold King. And the Gold King, spoilers, eventually had died after living for a long, long time, and he was seen like as an eternal king. And once he died, if I'm remembering correctly, the Wiseman source was no longer controlled and could give really everyone this power and like superpowers pretty much. That was kind of like the whole plot of that, is that once that happened, everyone became like powerful. And also when you had this power, you were pretty much like super duper strong, and you had like almost like infinite potential. So I kind of like the connections with that, if there is even any. I think that show could honestly have a lot of like influence on how Oni Force is like going on moving forward. I think that'd be a really cool concept to have. Like maybe certain like faction leaders get like their own like version of the one source that they use to recruit people with their factions and give them powers, and that's like who controls the territories now, or the different factions and their leaders. Check it out though. And the shift was the shift events that coincided with the death of the Emperor. It is not known if the two are correlated. I think it is, because I think the Emperor probably was maintaining the source to keep everything running, and then eventually, his body just couldn't handle it no more and probably died. That's what I'm thinking. Kind of like with the Gold King, like I said, from K. So the shift happened within the one source, which sent out a ripple effect to everyone and everything inside the Ethereal Enclave. The shift caused a change of frequency that affected everyone differently. So this shift, the frequency shift, I don't know if that like determines like how people like operate and think, like if whether or not they want to be violent, or like maybe they gained extra powers or even transformed into like from a yokai to a bakemono. We don't really know. They don't really tell us. But this frequency is pretty important. And then who are the Oni? The residents of the Ethereal Enclave, made from essence drawn from the one source. There are four types of yokai. Bakemono. Who are the Kami? They serve directly under Emperor. The Kami are regarded as counselors, advisors, and guardians of the ancient ways. They have attained the highest form of ascension by completing their mastery over the one source. Okay, so it is confirmed that once you ascend, which Moria is trying to help him with that with the implementation of the suits, getting you back into your suit body like the Kamis are, and once you go through the trials of Moria guiding you and helping you find yourself, maybe there'll be people who are the nameless who follow these voices are going to be able to be on the level of the Kami, if not even maybe even greater. And each set of the 70 Kamis rule over a specific domain that makes up the Ethereal Enclave: war, sun, moon, poetry, music, love, energy, and creation. So the creation god is probably really powerful, because the one source is already like creation itself. And so now we get some more on Moria, Death, and Mikasa. So Moria is the omnipotent and immaterial voice of the subconscious. Moria is one of the three special beings made by the Emperor. It is also implied that, once again, the manifestation of the one force, and in turn, Moria is inside of everyone in a sense. And I think that's where also this voice could come in, because since you are part of Moria and the one source, that's where like these whispers come in, and like these voices eternally. And I think that's also where I think if the one source is corrupted, there was somewhere, I can't find it, but that said the one source is corrupted, and that's how it caused the shift, and there's like slight corruption going on. And so I'm thinking, is maybe Moria corrupted in a sense? Like, you could argue that yes, Moria is like a third party and isn't good or evil, but like when you could be neutral and still be corrupted, and then unknowingly either influence other people, or maybe like there's like a fraction of Moria that is evil and is acting as Moria and is also like negatively influencing different people. So I think that's would also be interesting if like you're a fallen or nameless too, because like maybe it's like Moria's trying to help you and help you like get to your suit and help you find yourself, but is actually doing something for their own purpose as well. And then Death is one half of the Oni Elite Force, Oni Force Elite, which has not been mentioned at all. In Discord, Oni Force Elite, I think it's just like head admin, head mod. So don't know what Oni Force Elite's gonna be used for yet. Maybe like, I think since Mikasa's a guardian, they're both Oni Force Elite. They're the guardians of the city, maybe. And he's so with the key to unlocking the full potential of the one source. So I guess maybe if you're dating, wink wink, bros, or good friends with death, maybe he can help you. He can teach you how to become like an ascension of yourself. So it seems like Moria and Death are kind of like they kind of work together with trying to help everyone out in a sense. And so maybe if like you stumble upon Death, he helps you unlock your potential. And then Death is one of the three special beings, of course. And then Mikasa's a sister, another half of the Oni Force Elite, and sister of Death. And she is tasked with guarding the Art Enclave. So I think it'll be cool too if you can like become like students of Mikasa and Death. One half, if you follow Mikasa, you become like a guardian of the city and help protect everybody from like the corruption of said one source and like the outside influences that are coming into the city trying to take over and cause havoc. And then if you're with Mikasa, you're kind of like interim police, which is also kind of like what they did in K, the blue faction, the Blue King as they call them. Their whole group was kind of like the interim police and like who policed like the different like cities. It took place in Japan, but helped police Japan pretty much. And now the Demon's Kiss, as we already know, this is the safe place where everyone can go and be happy. So I don't know when you're all here, you just like lose all will to fight, be angry. Like this is where everyone just gathers and is nice to each other, and then when they leave, it's all back to normal. So like this, the Demon's Kiss is kind of like how the city used to be before all the corruption happened. So now we're gonna go over some of the stuff I got. So I've been kind of going through the Discord and like writing various things down that I've noticed or like read. I was really taking account of Moria, who is kind of like the big Lord player. So I kind of just got like basic stuff that we know, like Moria's a scout. Moria has no gender. No one really knows what they are. I guess except for Death and Mikasa, but I guess well, they're literally a being of energy. And looks like so some higher level Onis employ Moria to collect intel, which is interesting because it's been hinted that Moria is like a bounty hunter and kills Onis, which is kind of weird, in my opinion. I don't know how that works. So maybe like with the devil, maybe or something like you like make a contract to get like some extra power, some extra one source energy to help fight. I don't know. I think Strawberry was also hinting that there's this thing called essence that is kind of like that, but don't know yet for sure. And let's see. So yeah, Moria's always watching. So that's like when you get your name taken. I myself, lore wise, my name was also taken, and same with like Canary, Rose, and a lot of other people. A lot of other people have been having their names taken. I don't know if this was like before, I guess, outside of lore implications, that it's before you got your own Oni. Because like once I got mine, I was no longer, I guess, nameless in a sense, but I still have like the role in Discord, but never know. And it also looks like so this is from Canary that him and Mikasa went on a journey to the Sayuri Aquifer, which we don't know what that is for yet, but it looks like is what helped him ascend from being a nameless and become a supreme, like an Oni Force Supreme. And I think that's Guardian, right? Oni Force Elite. So I don't know what a Supreme is, but it's like the next step. And so this is like what they've been kind of hinting at, that you can like ascend and like become like a whole different type of person once you like find yourself and do these different tasks. And so it's like Mikasa has been helping people ascend in different ways. Okay, and this is old stuff that when the shift is happening right here, that Moira turned humans into nameless, forgot who they were, and this is what he lived until the shift occurred, thus transforming him, because it was kind of hinted at before that everyone was a human, and then when the Emperor died, in order to save everybody from the collapse, they were all transformed, but apparently that's been retconned. So take that with a grain of salt. And we already know that. And there was also a hint that, yeah, before, like, I guess it just kind of hinted that Death got his golden eyes from after the shift, but then it was also said that he was born with the eyes. And if you guys haven't seen, the golden Oni eyes is just the Oni eyes with the gold and the black, like, backing. I don't know what it's called exactly. And it also looks like, yeah, nano zones are also dividing parts of the Enclave. And it looks like since the nano zones have fallen, there is new areas to explore, which I guess is like the infinite like area of the Enclave, because it looks like everyone's just confined to the city, but now that the zones are gone, there's new places to explore. So I guess, like I said before, that's where new things can come in and start affecting the story as it goes. This is a quote from Moria: "As you rejected yourself, reject transformation, reject sacrifice, reject to sacrifice your ego, reject to become the best version of yourself." And this is kind of like Moria trying to help you ascend. And I'm assuming this is also what was said when Moria took everyone to their suits, which was under the Demon Kiss, which was not known before. And so it looks like in order to ascend, really, you gotta get rid of your ego and, like, kind of like everything you believe in, really, and just accept who you are and accept how things are in order to ascend. And that's where the Fallen come in, because there are people who, like, are rejecting these ideas and are kind of, like, maybe kind of scared of what really could be happening if they accept what's been being said to them by Moria. And this is also a quote from Moria: "Tap into the one source, feel the creational energy, let it guide you. It is through the one source that you create something on nothing," which is also interesting. So I wonder really what potential everyone can really have, and is that something that people can have? Like, should it be allowed for everyone to be able to have the one source to control it? Or like I was talking about earlier in the K anime, not everybody had these special powers, only like a select few that were selected by the king of each faction color. So that is also pretty interesting, since everyone pretty much has this power, and I wonder how that's really going to go down in the long run. And the Shadow Self is a reference to the beginning of the Discord before the drop, where everyone who was taken, their names taken by Moria, got their Shadow Self before they ascended to their Yokai Oni and Bakemono Self. And I don't know if, like, the devs gave everybody their own Oni. Like, they just gave everybody a random one who ascended and just gave them an Oni. Because I know Canary got, like, number, like, what, 17? And, like, some people got less, so I don't know. And it is also confirmed by Link that Moira is a manifestation of the one source. Also confirmed by Crypto Spaces. We also kind of had to talk about that. I should have had more of a talk with him about all this stuff, but maybe he can watch my video and we can hash some more things out about the lore. Yeah, here's my little hand cannon that were all the source of Moira. That, yeah, there's a corruption in the shift. The shift was a corruption in the one source energy, causing a massive explosion of energy and cursing everyone. And I was talking about maybe that everyone needs to come together and, like, stop the fighting, accept who they are, get suited up, and then help, like, take down this evil or this corruption, or even, like, restore the one source. Because we all have it, so if we all work together, we can fix it or restore it. And then maybe Moria has to be sealed away, maybe. You know, that was just kind of my thing. So I think that's really all that I know so far. I think it'd be nice, like, if there's, like, a guidebook in a sense. So, like, kind of like what they have on the website, like a little guidebook. And so that way, instead of having to scour through, like, pages of Discord and whatnot, I can even help with this too. So every, like, piece of lore is, like, centered in one area, like what we do for, like, when people have our mangas and stuff, just like guidebooks that, like, explain things and have everything, like, together so everyone can properly read it. But I hope me talking about this kind of gave people some insight or even something more interesting. Also in the Discord, there's a channel for lore questions. But honestly, I think they're still kind of working with the lore and changing stuff. Like, as a lot of people do in manga, like, stuff will be fact and then it'll be retconned and changed to something else. So I think it's still developing. So I just think those guidebooks would help. And then, like, you could cross and fact check different things, like, kind of like what I'm doing in this video, kind of fact checking in a sense, and, like, cross referencing the different stuff I know. But I think that's pretty much it. I don't know what else is going to happen with the lore. I'm really excited to find out. And, like, here's a kind of a picture of Complex. This is his Oni kind of going up to his suit. and going back inside of his suit right here. And this is also the one source explosion. I don't really know what the one source looked like where it was contained or whatnot, but here's it exploding. So maybe this is where the Emperor was staying, and then it just all exploded. But that's all I got for now. And leave in the comments what you guys think about the lore. I'm convinced everyone to let me help out on this. If they do update anything or like bring guidebooks, I will do that, and maybe I'll do reaction to the comic once that comes out. I'm sure that Link will probably do a reading of it, but I will do a reaction to that as well. Thank you all for coming by and listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed my little reaction, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.